Everybody for tuning in once again to Coder Conversations. If you want to catch up on any past episode, visit us at www.coderconvos.com. And I'm Kevin, and I'm with my co-host Brian.
Hey guys, Brian Russick, professional drummer, drum teacher based out of Suffolk County, Long Island, New York. You can find me on the web at brianrussick.com.
And for tonight's guest, we have Kelenda Allen James, Assistant Vice President of Information Technology at Commonpoint, Queens. We definitely appreciate you for stopping by and coming on the show.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
having
thanks
me.
for coming on tonight.
Awesome. So yeah, if you don't mind introducing yourself to our audience, what exactly does an assistant vice president of IT do, and how did you get that role?
So it took a long-term career. I've been working in technology for 20 years, and I specialize in nonprofit technology the whole time. I always believed that technology is a community builder. And at the start of my career, I wanted to provide affordable, mission-based technology to nonprofits because nobody wants to donate to an AOL account.
Right. So
And so now that I'm at Commonpoint, Queens, I'm at my dream job, and all the jobs before this prepared me for this position.
awesome. So you pretty much went in with the desire to help people versus just making a lot of money, correct?
Yes, and you can always help with a lot of money. If I had anything to yell from the rooftops, nonprofits need some unrestricted donations. Everybody wants to provide laptops for students, but without high-speed infrastructure, it does not help. Everybody wants to donate food, but if I had a refrigerator, the food would last longer. So donating some unrestricted funds, if you did have the job that makes all the money, would greatly help all the nonprofits.
Absolutely. So, like, can you tell us some of the ways that you were able to make an impact at these nonprofits?
So I'm working with people on the ground. When I'm at a charter school and I'm helping a student compress their portfolio so they can apply to their dream college, that's instant gratification. You see their hopes and dreams in one Excel file, and you're really there supporting them.
Yeah.
With the older adult community, when I have hybrid programming, if you're immunocompromised or not ready to come back to the center, you can still leave isolation and connect with your friends and play bingo in a hybrid model.
Awesome. So, like, you've entered tech like at a time when there weren't necessarily a lot of blacks in tech or a lot of females. So, during that time, what kind of prompted you to, diverge from, the typical things that we're expected to do?
So, what I learned was many people can be a mentor. And one of my first mentors in my career was a executive secretary to a director of a state government agency. And what she explained to me were things like how to get on somebody's calendar, what is a budget cycle, what's the cycle for getting raises, how to read a room, how to network and see the interconnections. All of that was valuable information. So if I had worked into my first job and only spoke to the IT people, I would have left a lot of information on the table during my career.
Yeah, it seems like mentorship is extremely important because that can fast track your career. And like you just mentioned, you're privy to information that you might have never known or would have taken you decades to discover. So, can you
Yes.
go into some of those things that you mentioned, just to give the audience a little bit more of a breakdown?
Yes. So nonprofit technology and for-profit technology, the technician needs the exact same hard technical skills, but you need different soft skills. The average nonprofit is ran by an educator, a social worker, and there's a lot of groupthink. There's a lot of consensus building, We're in a traditional for-profit. It's very siloed. The decision makers are mostly the CFO. What's this going to be the bottom line? So when I walk into a nonprofit saying I can save you $10,000, people are like, okay. But when I go into a nonprofit and saying that if we go to voice over IP phones, consolidate our cell phone bills, pull our minutes, get rid of the insurance, buy me a safe, and let's get some phones for overstock, I can now save you $10,000 a month. And it costs us $30,000 a year to house a homeless person. And so all of a sudden, the leaders care about the budget. They care about the savings because they see how it's connected to the programming. And so, like, knowing how your nonprofit's funded is my position on the general ledger, meaning you plan on having IT year in and year out, or is my position part of a grant? Is my position part of several grants where I have to do beyond IT to get a full salary? And so these are questions going into the nonprofit sector that will behoove you to find out up front before you like commit to a 30-year mortgage.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely very important. Do you kind of feel like a lot of nonprofits, maybe since they don't have the budget, they're really lacking in the IT department?
So the thing is, a lot of people don't understand a lot of nonprofits have tons of money. The Metropolitan Museum of Art is a nonprofit, and their Met Gala tickets are $10,000 a pop. They are not broke. People are getting six figures over there. Okay. And so nonprofit just generally means we zero out at the end of the year that we don't have money. Like the Actors Guild, the trade unions, these are all run as nonprofits. Nobody stops being an engineer next week and stop paying dues. So there's plenty of nonprofits with working wages and bonuses and salaries.
Okay.
Not all nonprofits are working on the same slim budgets.
Yeah, interesting. A lot of times people assume that, most of these nonprofits are working on shoestring budgets. So that's interesting that you mentioned that, you might have people making six figures there.
And most nonprofits are required to put their board meeting notes on the website, have their annual report on the website, and most nonprofits have to post the top 10 salaries. So salary number 10 is only $30,000 a year. You are not walking in there making six figures. So there is some basic research that's public information that you can look up to make your job search more fruitful.
So I know a lot of people are finding it incredibly difficult to find a job in tech. Do you think like maybe looking at nonprofits that might be a good path to start searching for that first job?
There's plenty of jobs in tech, not necessarily a lot of careers. Every day somebody's emailing me, I have a 6-month contract, I have 800 computers, I need them on desk. But after 6 months, you got to leave here. No benefits, no sick days, no pension. So I would say there's plenty of IT jobs. There's not necessarily a lot of careers.
Yeah.
When looking at nonprofit jobs, a lot of the jobs are listed by grant code funding the job. So IT support specialist is a grant code. When you read the job description, that job description could be from entry level to management. And the pay scale could be anywhere from $42,500 to $90,000 a year. And so quick apply on the job searching sites is doing you a disservice, because especially with a nonprofit grant code driven job description, the title might have nothing to do with the logical job. Many times this job description is written by HR, a social worker, an educator without a background in technology. So one job I got, their number one important value was listed in the last sentence of the job description. And by understanding the nonprofit job description, I had made sure every word that applied to me was on the resume, which got my application from 1,000 people applied to the top 5 being
That makes
interviewed.
sense. Yeah, that
Based
makes
on,
sense.
so definitely understanding most nonprofits do not have access to an applicant tracking machine or system. So actually sending your resume on Sunday works because it's being read by a human being who's just flipping through their phone while they watch their kids.
Oh, that's a major piece of advice there. I'm sure most people would have no idea about that. So like what else would you recommend they do to really stand out? Because you just mentioned like, maybe theoretically 1,000 resumes. How do you make sure yours is the one picked? Like, okay, I need a job. I want to work at your nonprofit.
That people need to read instructions. This is your first impression. If I said I wanted a cover letter, I meant I wanted a cover letter. So if you can't follow the intro instructions, why do I want to turn over a $3.2 million budget to you when you can't even read the job description? So like sometimes in the land of instant gratification and the prompt of instant apply, we're throwing spaghetti at the wall. But when we truly look at the job description, we will realize not every job is for us. And we could reduce a lot of rejection for not applying to jobs that have nothing to do with us. If your family's not moving to California, there's no need to apply for any jobs in California. If they say they want 20 years of experience and you have 2, 20 years was not a typo.
Right.
You're very slim that it's going to be you. It's one thing that I can probably learn a new technology, give me 6 months, I could be certified by, but I'm not learning a third language in 2 weeks.
Yeah, right.
So if you're asking for bilingual, like Russian and Polish, and I haven't even got my Duolingo yet, it's not going to be me.
Right.
So, okay, say somebody gets the job. What are some of the things that you've noticed that separates a good from a bad candidate, like when they show up on the job?
Okay, I can retrain you if you're uneducated. I can only fire you if you're a liar. Stop going to boot camp and putting on your resume that you're CompTIA certified. Because as a hiring manager, I'm going to ask you for your certification number. If you don't have a number, you're a liar and you just wasted my time. And when you're not certified, your salary band is based on your certifications and education. So as soon as you appear not certified, you are not getting the upper band. So you've just wasted everybody's time.
Oh, wow.
And like literally, the company has not moved. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for our website. Look at it before your job interview. And whatever you do not tell the director of IT, I didn't look at your website because it was down. That is an easily fact-checkable type piece of information.
Absolutely. So in the process of interviewing candidates, has one of them ever did something that really stood out to you? Like, oh, this person really knows what they're talking about, or, I can really work this person.
Well, the thing is, you have to understand not every job is for you. So I interviewed one candidate and they got 10% out of 100 on customer service. And I was like, did you ask for accommodations in school? Is there something you want me to tell you? Why is your customer service score so low? I work at the community center. Every adult is a viable adult to a child. So if they wander off the line, they're going to ask you, Miss, where's the bathroom? Because you're the adult in charge, because you're taller than them. When I'm at the swimming pool, member is going to ask, what's the Wi-Fi password? I want to read my Kindle. So, working at the community center, you cannot have a low customer service score. But shortly after that interview, where that candidate was not picked, they went on to make 3 times what I was offering to work at Google. But when was the last time you saw a 1-800 number to talk to anybody on the phone at Google? That's not what they lead with. So understanding that not every job is for everyone will make your career search and your mental health so much easier. And just because you don't fit one place, it does not mean the amazing's not on the other side.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like, even with people getting into tech, I tell everybody, tech's not for everybody. Everybody doesn't need to learn the code or come into the industry, because that's just not a reality. There's not enough positions for everybody, and you have to have a certain personality to really excel in this field. So, like, in terms of IT, when do you know, okay, this isn't for me? Maybe I should move on to something different.
Well, you have to understand that technology is a big place. And so if you're going to be, on the networking side of IT, a blade server is 100 pounds. Like, networking is a physical job. Like, to make sure the wire's plugged in when they say my internet doesn't work, you're going to have to get on your hands and knees and get on the ground to see if the network cable is plugged in. So if you don't like physicality, going into computer networking is not logical. And if you don't like working without a team and a lot of coding positions are not going to be for you. But if you love chatting with people and being a people connector, IT project management might be the super job for you.
I can see that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like you mentioned, not everything is super technical. Not everything is just typing code behind a computer. Like you mentioned, there's project management and all of these other fields. So there's a wide palette. So yeah, I think it is really important for people to self-reflect and find something that aligns with what the job entails, like you mentioned.
Technical training, educators have a lot of built-in crossover skills, lesson planning, different modalities of teaching, keeping a classroom on track. All these are transferable skills from teacher to educational trainer. And every new technology needs somebody to explain it to the next person. So there's always training jobs available either at the parent company or at the product company being offered as a job. And I would say that's a great crossover job for a teacher.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You mentioned boot camp a little bit earlier, so let's dive into that. Do you feel like these boot camps, they're adequately preparing their students for the realities of tech?
Some are, some have proven track records. Some people have amazing reputations. And then there are some people preying on the desperate who are using their last bit of financial access to go into a pipe dream that does not apply to them. And I recommend all of us start at our local library. Many library systems have LinkedIn Learning for free with your library card. All the libraries still have the CompTIA A+ book for you to check out.
Yeah.
And start reviewing for free. Do some informational interviews for free before you invest into a boot camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people were sold the dream of hurry up, go through the boot camp, and you just got 6 figures waiting for you. And it might have been a reality 10 years ago, but now the landscape is completely different. So, like you mentioned, you really have to do your research.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much sold on, okay, programming, you can work remote, you don't have to deal with a lot of people, it can be high salaries, 6 figures. So I went to a coding boot camp, learned Java Spring, got out of school, realized I was extremely unprepared for the actual job market, had to go out and learn JavaScript and React and Angular just to get interviews. And it was definitely a hard road. And like you said, Kevin, coding is not for everyone. I realized, within a week or two of my first legit tech job that there's no way I can do this. It's just not going to work out.
Yes. And I definitely feel that everybody in a community, each one teach one, be transparent what the day of your life and your job is. Working at the community center, working in nonprofits, I don't get to start sentences with, that's not my job. Okay. At the community center, we are also the community. So we're all chipping in. Every department is cross pollinating, have a high overview of what's happening. As our demands and emergencies change, we're going to have to support other departments. Many nonprofits are not siloed. It's a very cross project type institution. And so, one of the tips I can give, if you're interested in working in a nonprofit, have something in your volunteer section on LinkedIn. They would like to see you actively caring about any aspect of the community before you join their community.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So like you kind of mentioned nonprofits, you have to wear many hats. It's almost like a startup in a way.
Yes. Definitely if you're an IT generalist, nonprofits are very good for you. You'll have a little bit of database. You'll have a little bit of networking. You'll have cybersecurity. You'll have servers. You'll have the cloud, because they're not going to have this expansive, multi-layered IT department. So you will get exposed to lots of different technologies. And when we are looking for job experience, volunteerism is a way to get that job experience. Working at a lot of smaller nonprofits, I was a department of one, managing myself. So how do I prove management to a bigger company where I'm going to have one employees? I'm letting you know, I manage the interns. I mentored one of our community members to break into IT. I volunteered at the Boys and Girls Club to mentor high school students to prepare for college. All those skills are transferable into management, coaching, performance reviews type job skills. At a smaller organization, I didn't have to do my own budget. It was done by the CEO. How did I get my budgeting skills? I was volunteering with my sorority. I was working with their housing corporation. I was doing party planning, signing contracts, getting legal, getting deposits, getting security to run an $80,000 party. These are transferable skills. So once you get your skills, when I started, my nonprofit was a Google workspace, but I wanted to see Office 365. I volunteered at my local place of worship, and they let me spin up their instance of Office 365, and they later wrote me a nice reference on LinkedIn. So we can get experience and help our community at the same time with many volunteer projects.
Yeah, I think that's a thing that a lot of technologists don't consider, volunteering, especially if you're in a big city. They have a lot of these big churches and they need technologists. That's a good way to get experience.
Yes.
And like in this industry, if you don't have experience, it's really hard to get a job. You pretty much have to come in, something somewhat equivalent to like a mid-level developer just to be in a junior role, especially with things like AI that's doing what they would typically be doing.
Yes.
Have you seen AI start to transform the nonprofit sector? Like, is that something you're utilizing in the companies you work for?
Yes, in some aspects, AI is working, and some aspects it does not. With, our homeless population, their caseworkers looking for a paper business card to see if you look for a job today. They're not wanting a QR code. Our older adults still want a paper newsletter in the lobby, and they want the lunch menu on the bulletin board. They are not using a QR code. But some of our, school age children, they'll use their ID, tap into the building, go online, register for their classes. So I think when you think about AI, when you think about the community, there's places where it works, and then there's places where it doesn't. And you don't want to isolate your community by putting up artificial intelligence when it just makes a circular loop that makes no sense.
Sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's a big problem in tech, is that a lot of times there's this new hype technology and people are just integrating it just because it's the trend of the day. And in the long run, the technology doesn't end up working out and you have all this massive tech debt. So like, have you,
Correct.
oh, go
Like,
ahead.
yeah, like students don't need VR glasses for imagination time. It's a bonus, but they will still be educated if they did not get a VR tour of Rome.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like school is way different than when I grew up. Like we didn't have tablets in the classroom. You couldn't even have a phone in the classroom. And now it seems like there's not even physical books in some of these classes.
But being a technology user does not mean you know how to use technology. What we learned during the pandemic is 30% of the students did not know how to turn on a computer because the computer was always turned on when they walked into the classroom.
Interesting.
50% of my students did not know that you could use the shift key to make a capital letter because they use the cap lock on a Windows keyboard, which is not available on a Chromebook.
Hmm.
So being a technology consumer does not make you a technologist. And I think that's the harsh reality that we are seeing in the community when we have these students entering the workforce without basic skills of how to type, how to punctuate, how to restart the computer. So yeah.
In a way, it seems like it's kind of mimicking the nonprofit space. Like the whole job thing period is you can't really be in a silo anymore. You can't just be this one thing. You have to do a little bit of everything because, like, just for me personally, okay, I started off doing Angular. If I've been doing that for a while, but if that framework goes out of vogue, now I have to learn something completely different. So in a way, now you almost have to be a jack of many trades, and you have to integrate technology to some extent to increase your productivity.
Yes. And every company is a technology company at this point. Even if technology is not our product, we're all leveraging technology to support our communities. And what we need to realize is we need to give people foundational principles where you understand the logic, where you understand the fundamentals, though even if the language changes, programming did not, you know? And even if the email client changes, the network layer has not.
All right.
So understanding the fundamentals will make you successful anywhere. The best thing my first employer gave me was a notebook and a pen to write down my own instructions in my own words so I can replicate. And nobody made me boss on the first day. I couldn't touch the server until after I worked there for 6
Oh, wow.
months. They didn't even let me have a key to the server room until month 3. So the social media makes life seem instantaneous, but there's a whole lot of unedited footage of like all the steps it took people to get to where they are. And nobody made me assistant vice president on day 1.
Right.
It was a 20-year project.
Yeah, you put in your work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great point because we're in a get rich quick, take this course and 2 months later you're going to be a millionaire. We're in that kind of magical society where you don't have to really work that hard, and it's just wealth just around the corner. But I try to tell people, if you really want to be successful, you have to work at it. You have to develop a skill set that's not easily duplicable, and it has to be valuable as well. But there's no getting around hard work.
Yes. And my first mentor, the executive secretary, understanding how she worked the phones still helps me troubleshoot phone trees to this day, to understand the logic of calls moving around a company. So some technology problems have 5-second solutions if you know the mechanics of the fundamentals.
Absolutely. And it seems like you're also diving into an aspect that's often overlooked by technologists, which is like the soft skills. Like you have to be able to communicate.
Yes. And at the community center, you don't get to do everything remotely.
Right.
You're going to have to walk to the swimming pool and go to the lifeguard station and look at the connection. And with the hybrid model and work from home, not everything is remotable. Sometimes you're going to have to walk up to a desk and speak to a person. And one of my first interview questions was, how do you feel about giving speeches? They didn't need me to give a speech, but they were just trying to test me. Do I have enough confidence to walk up to a person? Excuse me, I'm your technician for today. I got your help desk ticket. I would like to assist you. May I touch your computer? Please ask to touch somebody's computer before you start just getting grabby. That is a soft skill that will make them more comfortable with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just knowing how your actions and your words affect other people. That's what could separate somebody who's stuck at maybe like a mid-level technologist and they're moving up into a more of a leadership role, because leadership has to see how you're able to interact with your peers, and if you're able to communicate with them and even help them out, mentor them, get them to be more productive, and that's all communication.
Yes. And when you get to the higher levels of the position, they need to understand, as a candidate, can you be the face of this company? Do you know what to wear to a board meeting? Do you know how to redirect a press call? And not everybody has that soft skill. There's a lot of ways to make money without going into management. So wanting more money cannot be your only reason to go into management. If it is, you will be frustrated for a long time in your career.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important that you look the part. I've heard the saying, like, if you want to attract $1 million, you need to look like $1 million. So somebody has to see it in you, see it on you before they promote you to that role. Like technology, we're often laid back, Silicon Valley, show up, t-shirt and jeans, but like it or not, people are still judging you by what you wear and how you look and carry yourself.
And you don't have to fake it till you make it. I work at a nonprofit that encourages me to bring my whole self to work. And so, but I recently gave a speech on the company's behalf. I did not wear my Super Mario shirt that day. I did wear some Green Lantern jewelry with my black and white suit, so understanding the time and the place, and you can Google professional work attire from multiple industries to learn on your own if you don't have a mentor who will be honest in your face.
Yeah, I think having a mentor that's honest enough to tell you exactly where you're slipping up, that's really important versus the one that's always giving you a pat on the back, because how can you do better if you don't know better?
Yes. And this is where understanding that the job title is not the only requirement for mentorship on a company. That executive secretary who knows the full functionality of the company might have way more inside information and helpful logistical information than the 3-year senior director of what have you.
So yeah, we talked about a little bit about mentorship. I'd like to dive into that a little more. I've taken some opportunities to try to mentor people, but some of the things that turn me off from wanting to mentor people is if they just kind of pop in, pop out. They don't really. It's like they don't really respect your time. Like, are there certain criteria that you have before you pick somebody to mentor? Like, what would make you mentor one versus another?
So I'm popular and a hot commodity. So I have a 2-pager with the top 50 questions always asked of me to just send out. Most people just want the top 50 questions. They're not interested in longevity. They really just want an informational interview, but they didn't know that's what it was called. So anybody who's interested in me, I give them my 2-pager, read the questions. Then you have the opportunity to do a 15-minute, 3-question Zoom call with me to ask one of the questions that was not on the 2-pager. That will immediately weed out a lot of people.
Right.
And then once you get those 3 questions, you can see the rapport, see how I answer. And then we can look into, do we want to build a long-term conversation? And the key is you have to come with at least a dream, if not a plan, for me to support you with.
Absolutely. So have you come across a lot of people that's kind of unprepared for that process?
So a lot of people just really want an informational interview and don't know that's what it's called. They think everything's mentorship, but a lot of stuff is an informational, what is a day in your life like? I think I'm interested in it, which is truly a one-time conversation. And mentorship, by definition, is a long-term relationship, which is also different from sponsorship, a person who actually has the ability to hand deliver your resume and put you in the next place. That is sponsorship, which is even harder to get than mentorship.
Right. Yeah, I've kind of heard of that in a previous interview. I think they called it like a champion. They champion you, like they're going to bat for you. In front of higher management, they're like, this guy, or this girl, I want to lift her up. Like they're really on their game.
Yes.
Like what makes somebody in your eyes, like for you personally, eligible for sponsorship versus just like mentorship?
Sponsorship truly depends on how much, work or political capital you have in your company or in your industry to put somebody in position. But the thing is, we all have to remember the world is interconnected. And the same people you see going up the ladder are the same people you have to pass if you fall down that ladder. And even as an entry-level person, you don't have to just be a taker. You can still be a giver. You can give. I got my first job by emailing somebody from my internship to let them know this is the great place I buy CDs at, when you still bought CDs over the
Right.
internet.
That takes me back.
Yeah, and they were like, thanks for the information. They're giving a go away party for our IT support specialist right now. Apply. And so, me giving my meager entry level, here's where I buy CDs, showed the character that I had, that I'm just not a taker. We don't all have the capacity to hand deliver a resume when we're on probation at our first job. But that doesn't mean that we still can't offer something to the people in our community. Book recommendations, TV recommendations, what's on sale at Costco. You should always be willing to give what you have, and don't just be a taker in these relationships.
Yeah, I find it's really important is bringing something of value outside of what's already in the organization. Like at my current job, if I would have just did the work, you know, show up, did what they tell me, then I would be stuck at a certain position. But me taking initiative, me doing things without being asked, me bringing my knowledge base from my previous jobs and bringing new technology, new techniques over to this new job, that makes me more valuable and, puts me in a position to where, I might be chosen for a more of a leadership position.
Mhm. And what we have to do is stay ready so we don't have to get ready.
Right.
I didn't get FaceTime with my CEO at one of my companies until I worked there a year. And I only got that FaceTime because we were standing next to each other at the buffet line at a happy hour. And that was my moment
Interesting.
to give my great idea for the
Right.
company.
Oh yeah.
But you need an idea when you finally get your meeting. So stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
powerful. So another thing that you mentioned earlier was longevity. I know a lot of people, they just want to get the job, but they don't really think about what's going to keep them there. So what do you recommend they do to make sure they're a valuable resource? And say for example, layoffs come, they're not picked.
So the thing is, you need to build a consistent brand. And everybody has a brand, positive or negative. We all know who the late person is in the office. Even if we're not your supervisor, we know who the late person is, And we always know the person who is like, has the humility to just put paper in the copy machine, regardless of what their job title is. And so as you're working, you need to build your brand of consistency, of this is how I work, this is who I am. I'm the same in person across my social medias. Put it on private if you're living your best life and it's counter the mission of your company, because you're setting yourself up for failure. So definitely be authentic to yourself, but you are doing yourself a disservice that you can work for a company and not adopt their culture. We spend so much time of our lives at work. We want to spend time with people we enjoy. So look at the company website. If diversity, inclusion, and equity is your thing, and they can't even make the cartoon characters diverse, you're probably not going to be happy there.
Yep.
If every photo on the company website is bring your dog to work and you're afraid of dogs, this is not your dream job.
Yeah, it's not for you.
So,
Not for you.
we have to remember that as job applicants, we are interviewing the company just like they are interviewing us. There is a symbiotic relationship that you can reach an agreement to. They don't have to take everything you're offering, and you don't have to take everything they're offering. But don't think you can go in and not be into the mission. It's just not going to create longevity.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned building a brand. That's something I've recently made a post about. I think a lot of people, just because you say the word brand, they don't necessarily understand what that means. They think like, oh, maybe you're pitching a company, but no, it just means like your public persona. Like when a
Yes.
job looks at you, they're gonna realize what you're doing, like you mentioned on social media. Are you the one they can
Mm-hmm.
depend on? Do you show up? Or, one
Mm-hmm.
thing I know that's really important is, like, say the boss messages you, how long does it take for you to respond, in like DM him back or DM her back? Just small things like that.
And the other question is, do you make the boss do a ticket just like you make the secretary do a ticket to show that you want equity across all branches of the company? That's part of a brand too.
Mm.
Do we only like the people at the top? Or do we believe all the people at the company are valuable cogs and they're all doing their best work regardless of their job title? And so one way I see the brand is, how is somebody going to describe you if you're not in the room? And would the people listening contradict that message or agree with it? That is the brand.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot of, a lot of people won't think that deeply, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, how do you treat your peers or somebody that might be a lower position than you? Because when the boss talks to them, they can either be your greatest advocate, or they can be completely against you and tank your reputation because they just don't like something you did, and that's your fault because how you treated them.
Yeah. There was a great MTV show starring 50 Cent back in the day where he had some interns working for them, and one of the contestants was very mean to a nail tech. And 50 Cent was like, "Do you not understand? I have several partnerships with this lady's home country. You don't reflect well on me." So what we have to understand is everybody was hired for the thing that they hired you to do. But most people are interested in potential. And the thing is, do you have the growth mindset to grow, adapt, and flourish in the new position? Because kind people are not going to promote you to fall on your face.
Right.
They're trying to promote you for success. So if you keep getting passed over and your work is excellent, investigate your personality.
Absolutely, because jobs are not just technicians doing work and disappearing. You're dealing with people all day. If they don't like you, it's people that's doing the promotions and all of that. So if they don't like you, they're not going to hire you. They're going to potentially promote the person that does. In the same stratosphere, they might be a little less skilled, but they like them, so they'll pick them over you.
But yeah, I think Kevin, like
Mhm.
that is what you're saying. That's basically the bottom line.
Yep, having those soft skills. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just like, we have our unsung workers. Facilities doesn't always get their shine, but they stop millions of lawsuits by putting up the wet floor sign. They make the facility look warm and welcoming, and I want to do business here. If facilities wasn't on that trash can, no, I don't want to buy nothing for $8.2 million from you over at your Silicon Valley type corporation, because y'all don't even know how to take out the trash. So we have to remember that all our workers are going towards the common mission. And to build a successful company, a successful community, a successful friend group, you need to find the value and the contribution of all those who work with you and respect it, even if you don't understand it, even if it's not your expertise.
Exactly. And, even in the Bible, it teaches us humility is key, because, we can get prideful thinking that our title makes us, all the way up here, or we're making all of this money, but you can lose that really quickly, and if you have a bad attitude, you're going to be stuck. Nobody's really going to want to take a chance to rehire you because, oh, you're so arrogant, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, that is an important principle, that you just treat everybody well. You just don't look at the title. You just appreciate them as a person.
I mean, you would hope that
And that
most people would take that stance, Kevin.
and those people who take that stance are the ones who have the longevity in careers, that have the success, that have the human capital to call in the favors when times get lean.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of lean times, there's a lot of people like out of work and having trouble finding jobs. For people that do have a job, I like to advise them, like, you're still building your brand. You should still build your brand while you're employed, so that when you're unemployed, it's going to be a much easier transition than running like a chicken with your head cut off. Once you lose your job, don't just disappear.
Mhm. Yes, and we should all be perfecting our elevator pitch. If the lady at the grocery store check line does not think what you do is amazing, work on the elevator pitch, because if she can't see it, you're going to be hard pressed to find people to give you money to do it. And networking can come in many ways. I've gotten 3 jobs from book club, because what book club shows people is I'm prepared, can piece coherent thoughts together, and I pay my fair share of the bill. These are all good 3 traits to want to work with somebody. And so just when we say networking, it doesn't have to be the after work bar scene. You can talk to anybody about your career plans, because everybody is connected to work.
Absolutely. And I've heard, people like to work with people they like. So, you could just be anywhere, like you mentioned, having a conversation. They really like you. So, for example, one of my friends, he was driving Uber, and he happened to pick up somebody, that a Google manager from the airport. And that Google manager ended up helping him get hired at the company. So you never know where your next networking opportunity is going to come from.
Correct. When I first moved to New York City, I was working on my elevator pitch everywhere. I just moved to New York. This is why I'm in the DMV line. And the man in front of me is like, oh, the IT guy is having a retirement party. Call this number. And I did get a courtesy interview from that recommendation. And that person worked in facilities.
Oh, wow.
And this was the DMV line. So if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Right.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Even just walking around in the mall, I found, like, just depending on the kind of clothes you wear, you're gonna get completely different treatment. Like, if you're looking kind of bummy, they're gonna, like, who is that? But if you're dressed in a suit, just the conversations people will have with you, they just smile at you before you even say a word. So all of this stuff matters. Like, that's part of your brand.
Presentation. Yeah.
And
presentation.
Yes,
Yeah.
presentation. And the thing is, everybody's doing their best. Not everybody has the same background or exposure. Like, if you Google IT director, it's going to be page like 9 before you see somebody who looks like me. Representation does matter. So a lot of people haven't thought about these jobs because the representation hasn't been seen yet. But the first beta testers are the people in the room on most of these new technologies. So all the people need to be participating in these conversations on new and emerging technologies and refining the technologies we already have.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, representation is really important, because how do they know they can be that if they don't see that? But there are those pioneers who don't let the lack of that representation stop them, and I believe those are really important in cultivating the next generation to believe they can do it.
Correct. And also, we have a lot of tools in our hands. I got a 4.0 in my master's program, and I used an old work laptop with no internet on an ironing board and a folding chair. I did not wait for perfect conditions to achieve my master's degree.
Yeah, if you want it, you can go get it. Like, a lot of times we put these little hurdles in front of us because you don't really want it that bad. Like, oh, I don't have the perfect computer, or I don't have this or that. No, if you want it, you can get it.
Mm-hmm. And doing a lot of entry-level research, like I said, LinkedIn Learning, offered by many library systems for free, the actual technical books that they still find in your local library. This is a great free way to look into and explore technology careers before you make the larger investments.
Absolutely. We're getting to the top of the hour. It was an absolute pleasure having you on the show, but did you want to leave our audience with any closing thoughts?
Yeah, the closing thoughts would be you can start now. YouTube University is out there for us. Our local library systems are still thriving. You can start today if technology or any other career is of interest to you. If I can shout it from the rooftops, if you went into the careers with lots of money, please think about offering unrestricted donations to nonprofits, because a lot of our work can increase if we can buy the things people forget about, like gas for social workers, refrigerators for the food, IT infrastructure for the laptops, training for the iPads, and unrestricted donation dollars would truly help that.
Absolutely. And Brian, did you have anything you want to close on?
I guess I always like to ask this, if you were giving tips to the entry level person trying to break into IT or programming, or let's say you could go back in time and tell yourself, oh, this one piece of advice that would really be like mind blowing, earth shattering, what would that be?
You're not certified if your certification has expired. So please mark in your calendars recertification timelines. And if you take all your certifications at the same time, you're going to have to recertify at the same time. So that could be a very heavy month of recertification. So definitely plan your certification calendar out and keep it mapped so you don't lose your certification because you missed a deadline.
Awesome. And yeah, we definitely appreciate you for coming on to the show.
Thank you so much. It was a
Anytime you'd
great
like to return,
experience.
let us know.
Yeah, we
Will
really
do.
appreciate you coming on tonight.
Yeah, we appreciate your
Thank
wisdom.
you so much.
And we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll catch y'all next time.